I was in the offices, at the production offices, and it was a contract, and it said Big Eats. Second page said Big Eats. Third page said Man versus Food. I was like, no! I was like, I gotta call somebody. Call my mom. I didn't have a lawyer. Call a lawyer. You have a lawyer? The beauty about it is the fun folks in production and the producers that write copy, as a result of doing the show for as long as we have, these 90 episodes, they've started to write in how I speak. The fact that someone would take a moment out of their day and like say a nice thing, like there's not enough of that in the world, or maybe there is. And I appreciate that so much. And I would never not want someone to come up, you know, because I totally fan out too.
You're listening to the Radcast. If it's radical, we cover it. Here's your host, Ryan Alford.
Hey guys, welcome to the latest edition of the Radcast. We're talking food today, my friend. We're going battling with food, man versus food. I've got actor, comedian, host of Man versus Food, Casey Webb. What's up, Casey?
Woo! How we doing, brother?
Great, man. I'm trying to contain my excitement. I get depressed watching many things on TV, which is why I don't watch much TV, but I have like 3 go-tos, and Man versus Food is like at the top of the list. So
thank you for saying so. I do appreciate hearing that, because like in the beginning I had no idea who was watching. I just figured it was just dudes like me that ate food all the time, you know. But I couldn't have been more wrong, because it's kids, it's parents, it's dudes like me. It's a vast group of people that watch a show, and that was really humbling, and that's probably one of the reasons why I've continued to do so, because it's not just dudes like me that like the show. So
no, it's a lot of people,
especially kids.
And I told you we messaged on social media like everybody else does, and I told you, and my kids and I was like our Saturday morning, literally watching this past weekend, we were on the boat and watching reruns of Man versus Food, and I'm like, he's gonna be on the show. And they're like,
if I can make a kid laugh, I feel like I'm doing my job. If I can make an adult laugh, that's just a bonus, right? Because and what's fun about the show is like the adults get the adult jokes and the kids get the kids jokes, and it's like I pride myself. It's kind of like a Warner Brothers cartoon from for my generation, just and being silly like a kid. So it brings me a great deal of joy knowing that people can have a laugh. And the coolest thing is like a parent first reached out in like the first season of the show, and he's like, you know what, we really love the show because we could turn it on and it's safe. There's no cussing, there's no there's no foul language, it's food and fun, and there's a bit of competition there too, and like I don't always win, which is great, because if I won every one, then what kind of show is that too? And I'm trying. It's not with the lack of trying. It's just clearly the reality is sometimes I just don't win. I'd like to consider myself the underdog in that scenario. Like the Husky, I call myself Husky Balboa, like Rocky Balboa. Just sometimes I win, sometimes I lose.
I know, but like I can't think. You're so endearing though on TV. I will say that. Like there's like this. You're rooting for you, but like there's the comedy, because you're obviously a comedian, you're a funny guy, but there's an endearing quality to you that I think makes it easy television for sure.
Yeah, it's funny how my career started, because I started doing voiceovers and commercial. I was doing theater and stand up and improv, but when I got onto camera into doing voiceovers, I was either doing voiceovers or I was doing on-camera commercials where I didn't say anything in the commercial, or it was my voice on the voiceover. It took a little while for me to bridge the gap and do both. So with the show, it really bridges the gap, and I could do both. I could say silly things, and I do. I've been told I have a funny face, so in a good way.
Yeah, you do. I mean, you look. There's like a. I don't even know what I'd compare it. I don't know if it's like the John Candy meets something else. I don't know what.
Totally.
I don't know.
I get Chris Farley. When I'm heavier, I get Chris.
Yeah. You look lighter now or something. I don't know.
Not as funny as Farley and not as fat as or no, not, wait, was it not as funny as Farrell and not as fat as Farley? That's
yeah. Yeah, right. I don't know about that. It's pretty damn funny.
No, I know. I'm just kidding. Thanks, man.
Casey, let's back up. I you know, just like you in taking on the food challenges, I want to like dive in like immediately,
Yes.
but
Okay.
I do want, because I think people are fascinated, you know, like, you know, to kind of hear your journey a bit. We all think mistakenly that, oh, it just all, you know, comes perfect. Like, I'm sure it was just this easy path. Something tells me, and I don't even know your full story. It's never as easy as it seems to kind of get to, you know, where you are with a show like this. But let's talk about a little bit of that journey.
So with acting, I started late in life. I wound up playing football. I was playing football in high school, went off to college, and I decided to stop playing, which was the hardest thing for me to do. You know, went away to this Division III school. I thought I was going to be like 6'6". You know, my brother's pretty tall and big. I thought I was going to be at least his height, but I wasn't. But I was good. I just, you know, I didn't make it. I wasn't. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be when I wanting to go to college. It became work, and then, you know, I wound up taking this theater history class in the school, and which I later was abruptly asked to, maybe I should probably move on from that school, as it happens. But it was this theater history class, and I was like just so kind of enamored with, like, oh, this is something that I could possibly do, you know. And some of my heroes, acting heroes, guys were in the military, or they were athletes first, or, you know, it was like, oh, anything's really possible. Because especially, and sports gave me that. Sports gave me everything, you know, the confidence, the you know, the mental aptitude, just the drive. So I wound up doing theater like at 18 in a community college where I had friends going to, and I had two really close buddies. One was going to conservatory in New York City. One was getting his undergrad at a school, but he was minoring in theater. And like my three closest friends somehow wind up doing theater and acting. Right. So I wound up auditioning for this play. Cold read is basically you read off a piece of paper. You don't know really what it says. You don't have time to rehearse it in front of an audience of other actors and people. And I failed. I couldn't do it. I just was so poor at it. And that's now when I realized, like, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. Like, in that moment, I was like, this is such a challenge that I want to take this thing on. So I stopped playing sports. I stopped running into people with my helmet, and I started doing theater, and that was at 18. And that's kind of where it all started. Right. So, you know, cut to, you know, I've spent a life pursuing it, but I've left it a lot. But what kept me busy in the pursuit of acting, I long before I was an actor, or at least pursuing it, I started working in the restaurant business. So I think it was my father that first handed me the spatula at age 10 and taught me how to make eggs. And probably for two reasons: one, not to burn myself, and two, because he was tired of me asking him to make him eggs, for him to make me eggs.
There we go.
So yeah, so that's kind of, you know, like being in the workforce at a young age gave me the work ethic, you know, and that's kind of where that started. So quite literally, the worlds collided when I got Man vs. Food. Cut to many years later, 2017. You know, I got the job of a lifetime. And as someone who pursues acting, you can't really say no to an audition, at least not in my world, because you might not get another one.
Yeah.
Little did I know that this audition would lead to, you know, 5 years of work, and other opportunities, just a ton of other opportunities. I was very fortunate prior to doing the show to do some not hosting, not reality lifestyle work, like commercials, voiceover, on camera, some TV. And then when the show hit, I was just my whole life was kind of thrown into the stratosphere, and I started traveling the country. I mean, cut to 5 years later, you know, we just wrapped on our 90th episode. We've done 6 seasons of the new version of Man vs. Food. And yeah, and it's brought me to your door. That's in a nutshell, but there's, you know, please feel free to dig into any of the stuff I brought up, because there's other stuff in there. But you know, one job led to 5 years of one job. So I wound up, casting director in New York City referred me to a casting director in LA, and I wound up getting this job working on this YouTube show. And then that director introduced me to an agent in New York City, And then that led to the audition for Man vs. Food, which they told me was not Man vs. Food. They told me it was another show called Big Eats, because I thought the show was still in the air, but in 2012, the show was off the air in 2012. So this is 2017. I'm auditioning for the new Man vs. Food, but they kept it under wraps, and they were telling me that it was a show called Big Eats. So it wasn't until I was signing the contract in the office in Bryant Park. Pretty much, like, I guess it was such a popular show, and they had a new regime at the network, and they couldn't really tell anybody. So lucky me, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, what did you do in the restaurants? You say, I always, were you in the kitchen a lot, or were you bartending, or like, what were your positions like?
Well, the first kitchen was the home kitchen, and the spatula that my dad handed me, and the bacon fat in a Campbell soup can. That's what New Yorkers did. That's what my parents did. I didn't know what that was for the longest time. I was like, this is gross. Why is there bacon fat in the freezer? And little did I know, it's like the greatest thing ever. If you don't keep bacon fat in your freezer in a soup can, then you're missing out. But I started washing dishes at 14 in a pizza place that was in my hometown. My family knew their family, and 14 is a little young to be in the workforce. Not in my opinion, but legally. But I still got to wash dishes. And I think of like a pizza place as almost like if you watch Orange is the New Black, or any sort of like institution show, any show where they're in prison, because there's a hierarchy of people that are working there. And some of them are criminals, like more or less. There's the guys driving, the guys that drive the pizza. There's the guys making the pizza. These are magical human beings. I only wanted to be the guy that made the pizza. He was like, just like a stunner. Like, he had he's a total wizard. He had a long mustache, long hair, and he wore all white. And he was just slinging pizzas, never talked to anybody, smoked Marlboro cigarettes. And like, he's just a fascinating human being. And I was there washing the dishes, like observing this guy, and they basically pay you in pizza. So it was washing dishes, and then that led to, being a busboy, being then eventually a food runner, and then eventually, back to being a dishwasher, because you get demoted pretty quickly. And then, in the kitchen, like prepping. So cutting all the veggies, right? Yep. Prepping. And then that led to line cook. So I was able to learn along the way. And like, that's, in a lot of businesses that's gone away. Like my father was able to do that in his business. He learned from starting from A, and then he went up into management in his career. And so like the restaurant world, if you want it, it's there for you. You got to deal with a lot of personalities and a lot of, every weekend, every holiday, but it was just something that I fell in love with. And then, I was in the kitchen, line cook. And then I realized I didn't go to culinary school. I was just taught, by people that were really good. And that made me good. And then I realized that all the money's in the front of the house. So, I started bussing tables again. And then I started waiting tables. And then I was bartending and management, then I went to wine and liquor sales. And so, I pretty much run the gamut in all areas except for ownership. I never owned. Maybe someday. I've been a little busy. And that takes a lot of on the ground time. You need to be inside that brick and mortar if you're going to run your place, in my opinion. But that's where it's started washing dishes. That's really and it just kept me going. And then I was doing that all throughout my career, pursuing acting in New York City, which led to Man vs. Food.
Yeah. I think my first job at 14 was washing dishes at a Meat and Three restaurant.
Oh,
and let me tell you, it's a wonderful place to eat. It's the worst place it's hell on earth for washing dishes. Because you know why? Macaroni dishes that bake to the sides.
It's
the cobbler.
Concrete. It's concrete.
Oh, it's concrete. Your hands get raw. Everyone that wants to have true like grit needs to wash dishes one time in their life. at a restaurant.
So I think the restaurant business, in general, because it's really it's a hustle and there's a great deal of humility, but you learn so much. There's so much to be learned there. I love how you meet in 3. Great place to eat, but you wouldn't want to wash there. Right?
Yeah, no, yeah. I was like, why they're willing to give me a job? Is it still legal? My dad's like, I don't know, but they were friends with they went to my family's church. We went to church with his family.
Sure.
I'm not going to name them in case they could, there's like by now it's worn out the law or whatever.
Yeah, I will not name names. There's a statute of limitations on. Yeah, I will not name names either. I do have a good buddy in Nashville who has Arnold's, which is Meat and 3, which is really quite good. And he's elevated to Meat and 3 because I've had all kinds of Meat and 3 and they're amazing, right?
Yeah.
Salt is the first ingredient and everything.
Yes.
And then fat and then sweet and then and then
lard.
Love it though. I mean, you need a meal, go get a Meat and 3.
So you tried out. How many people tried out for Man versus? Do you even know like how many people you were up against in the?
I was up against food. I know that much.
in landing the gig.
What's interesting, I guess they, coast to coast, they had auditions, and I think it started with, the first audition, and I know you'll appreciate this, was, there was a point I was Airbnb my apartment that I rented in New York City, and that enabled me to travel, to pick up shifts, and then from other bartender buddies, and then crash at their place. And so long and the short, I had my first interview for Man versus Food, which I thought then was Big Eats, in my apartment. So the apartment was immaculate. I had this Italian couple that was showing up in an hour, and for the segment of that interview, she was like, at the very end of it, she's like, do you have are you prepared with the food portion of the audition or the interview? I was like, I don't remember reading that. There's nothing in my apartment, it's clean. Right. So I was like, just give me a second. And like, I happened to have a jar of apple pie moonshine in my refrigerator that I got from the Carolinas, and I will not name names. It was more than one jar in the, but there was a jar, and I picked that jar out of the fridge, and I sat down, and as I'm talking to you the same way, I spoke about moonshine for 20 minutes, and then that gave me the second audition. When later on, an executive from the network had sat there, we were in Minnesota during the Super Bowl several years ago when we were doing two episodes, and we were just talking. And he's like, someone had asked the question, "How'd you get the job?" And then he answered for me. He's like, "Well, it was really when Casey sat down and talked about moonshine for 20 minutes, we all knew that he was the guy." So I was like, I love that story. I was like, I never heard that from him. I was like, he's the executive, he's the guy in charge, and he's like, the fact that you could just pontificate, talk about moonshine. I mean, you have to understand, I'm a bartender and I'm an actor, and it's like all I would want to do is talk. It's like all the hours in detention as a kid have totally paid off, and I wish my parents knew that when I was a kid. But it started at that bottle of moonshine. That's what led to the second audition, and they were overlapping because the second audition was physically in a restaurant, and so we did a mini version of the show. So we did like a kitchen beat where I'm cooking the thing with the chef, and then I do I'm talking to guests about the food, and then it's me trying to crush some big cheeseburger, right? And right. But in the course of like 30 minutes, the show is 22 minutes long, but it takes 3 days to film it. Right. So It's a 22-minute show. It takes 3 days, but they were overlapping us. So I don't have any idea. And I never asked how many people are up for it. But I guess they whittled it down, they had to.
Yeah. And, and you were the winner.
I was the winner.
Not Big Eats.
I'm not Big Eats. I was right. I was in the offices at the production studio, at the production offices, and I had, it was a contract, and it said Big Eats. Second page said Big Eats. Third page said Man versus Food. I was like, no! I was like, I gotta call somebody. Call my mom. I didn't have a lawyer. Call a lawyer. Do you have a lawyer? It was just like, oh my God! Like, and little did I know, that the rest of my life would be just completely changed as a result of getting one job. 2 auditions, 1 job. I tell you this is a funny story. Right before I booked a commercial it was filmed in Panama. The country. And it was essentially a spinoff. It was a German real estate company, and it was a spinoff of Wolf of Wall Street. So instead of spending triple the amount of money in Miami, they did in Panama, because they have high rises, they have Lamborghinis. It's a beautiful country. And so they took 3 American actors, and we went and like destroyed office buildings. They had like this mock strip club. It was basically Wolf of Wall Street. And it was amazing, right? It was like one of the greatest experiences I've ever had with my job. I've had many as a result of doing Man vs. Food, but the day we were leaving, I couldn't find my passport. My passport went missing.
Oh God!
So that's a Wednesday. So Thursday, I have Thursday, and then that Friday was Good Friday. The whole country shuts down on Good Friday. Even the U.S. Embassy offices. So I was like, uh-oh. So and then Monday I was flying off to do the first episode of Man vs. Food. So if I didn't get home, long and short, I wound up meeting a really great police officer who like helped me through the entire process. I got a passport and I was able to fly out on my dime. I was like, I don't care. I flew first class home, and I ate ice cream the whole way home. I was like so thankful that I got out of town. But yeah, if it wasn't for that police officer in Panama, I would have missed the first episode of Man vs. Food, and maybe even fired. So nobody really knows that story. That's I keep that one tight, but it's such a fascinating thing. You never know. And it's like the help from others is I don't take that lightly. It's like, so like with my job, I feel like there's a great deal of gratification that I get from potentially helping a restaurant. And I didn't know this about restaurants, like what the impact of the show would have.
Yeah.
Do you like my segue there? I'm going.
I love it. Yeah, it's perfect.
And like, I didn't know until the show started airing that any any show that goes to any restaurant across the country, whether it be Man vs. Food or there's a huge bump in business. I mean, potentially 40%. And I'm like, 40%? I've worked for mom and pops, a lot of them, and I work corporate. I get it. 40% is everything. That could keep the lights on and fix a hole in the roof. And I was like, wow, this really, really, really matters. And like, I didn't really think what I was doing mattered, because I was crushing cheeseburgers or eating, it's either huge or hot. And I was like, I don't know if I could do this anymore. This is kind of painful, but there was so many pluses, and like, I'll eat crow. I'll eat the silly sandwiches and the hot stuff if it's making people laugh and smile, and then potentially increasing someone's business. It's within my power to do so. And that's quite honestly, that's kind of what's kept me in it. It's like, it's not it'll probably be what I'm most known for, but it's not going to be my legacy. I'll tell you that much,
Right.
So helping is what has kind of kept me in it, it's and it actually makes an impact, and I never thought some silly show as Man vs. Food, not to call it silly, but would have such an impact. And people plan their whole vacations on shows that, restaurants that we've been to on Man vs. Food and other shows. Like, yeah, we went on vacation. We went to every place he went to. It was awesome. I was like, that's so great. I love that. It's like, we actually, they have repeat business,
Yeah.
So it kind of, that's what I think most proud of with the show, is that, it's quite honestly helping people, inadvertently. And I had no clue, so.
One thing I really appreciate about the show being, in the marketing, advertising, and like appreciating the dialogue. And I don't know how much it's written for you, how much you write, but like the writing and it's not lost on me, like the intros to the segment, the collection of words, the things that you say, and whether sometimes it's a rhyme, sometimes it's a riddle, sometimes it's whatever, that's not lost on me. And I don't know if that's lost on the crowd either, but I think I appreciate it maybe from a different position, being in the career that I'm in, but it's just, it's really clever and really smart.
I think from the begining, so part of it's scripted. All the facts and the things that we highlight that's scripted. And the beauty about it is the fun folks in production and the producers that write copy. as a result of doing the show for as long as we have these 90 episodes, they've started to write in how I speak, you know, so it started off one way and it's like, oh, now it sounds more like how Casey talks. Then like, so that was really, I was like, whoa, this is like, I would say that, you know, or like, I would point out, I was like, I wouldn't really say that, you know, like that's not something that would come out of my mouth, you know?
Yeah.
And so that was just like really flattering. It was like, oh, they're writing for my voice, and it's such a rare thing. It's usually like with characters or with like acting, it's like you find the voice within the character, but they were writing for my voice. So it was just it was like, oh, this is really great. And then the rest of it is improvised. So a lot of that stuff in the kitchen and me talking to folks, it's like, you know, whether it be someone in the chef in the kitchen or a little kid, you know, it's like, it's all loosely improvised. We're talking about the food that's in front of us. And we're mining for sound bites. Yep. Ideally we want, you know, I'm saying a bunch of stuff, so they say it back to me. So we have a blurb for that 22-minute episode from that one restaurant, you know? Yeah. So
it's fun. How do they choose the restaurants? Like, how does that happen? What's that process?
So the biggest thing, it's like, where are we going? Like, what states have we not gone to? What cities have we not gone to? And there's a lot of folks, you know, with the advent of social media, people send in, you know, like I get tons of DMs on social, like, come to the restaurant, we have a challenge. So it's really a location and working with the tourism, you know, associations of that state. Mm-hmm. Like we did a ton of episodes. We did a bunch in California. We've done several in Minnesota and Florida and a few in Jersey and New York City. And so, you know, working with the tourism bureaus, and then what haven't we done wherever we've been? What's unique? You know, where hasn't the show gone in the past, in the previous show? And so it's a lot of mining from the production office. It's a lot of them doing the research and vetting those restaurants. And just, you know, and maybe they've been on other shows, you know, because like there's others, like we've gone to places that were featured on other shows. That happens a lot too, which is kind of fun. It's like, oh, they were here. Great. You know, like, so it's a lot of hard work from the folks in the office. And then they're like, Casey, where do you want to go? I'm like, I want to go to Hawaii.
Italy.
and then we went to Hawaii. I was like, amazing. I was like, I want to go to Alaska. Then we went to Alaska. I was like, amazing. Let's go to Vegas. Then we went to Vegas. So, I mean, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. So yeah, I definitely throw some names in the hat, but it's a lot of that is from the production standpoint. You know, in the beginning, I was just holding on for dear life. I got off the flight from Panama, and then 2 days, like, I had dinner with my girlfriend at the time, and it was like a first date. It was just amazing. And then I was off on a plane like 2 days later, and then we were in Milwaukee. So yeah, in the very beginning, I was just holding on for dear life. Like, I don't know what's happening. You know, it's like,
how big's a crew that travels? Like,
so we do hire locally.
Okay.
But typically it's our DP, Dan Akiba, he's been with us since the first show, the original show. And so he's the guy that makes the food look really sexy. He does all that stuff. Yeah. And then it's our, production manager who basically organizes everything, our field producer, which is basically the director, and then our sound person. And then we hire another camera, and then local PA, production assistant. So it's small little crew, small but mighty. We fly in, shoot 3 days, fly out. So we in the beginning, we were doing 3 and 2 episodes. We do 3 in a row, and then we'd have a break, and then we go out and do 2, and then we would have a break, then we go 3. 3 was insane. 3 was a lot. And then we stopped doing that. So now it's 2 in a row. So we'll fly out, shoot 3 days, have a day off, and then shoot another 3 days, and then go home. Yeah. So it's packed with food, and yeah, the cool thing is, it's like I get to see these places in a flash. I get to see them
like a fire hose,
and put pretty much like, and put a pin in it. Like, I want to come back here, and honestly, I always, because I do enough work where I know well enough where we're going, but I like to be surprised. Like, I want to be in awe. I want to be by where we're going, what we're specifically eating, or the town or the history. Like, I want to learn from the person that's talking to me. I want to discover that stuff like a kid. So I keep it. With fresh eyes. I really you know, I know just enough to be able to get through this segment of the show and also improvise and work. Cause I think that, you know, there's a lot of that fun that happens in the chaos of learning, you know, of discovering, yeah. And it's kind of a game that I play with myself. It's like, you know,
well, you look, but and whether it's your acting or not, you know, cause you're clearly a great actor, but like there's a level of surprise that comes across that feels authentic. Like, you know, I don't know if it's in your eyes, out of your expressions. Like, it's like,
I mean, I try to, that's as real as humanly possible. You know, it's like, yeah, I guess that's kind of what I'm getting to. I want to be present. You know, I want to be, I'm firing on all cylinders, and I'm using every bit of, you know, every sense. You know, I'm listening. I mean, with the food stuff, it's like, by the time we get to the challenge, like it's the third day, it's the last hour of the third day of filming. I'm like sort of fasting, drinking a lot of water, or like I've already dosed myself with hot food that whole week, and I'm just like ready to go, you know, like, and it's like almost like it's a battle. It's warfare, you know. I got to go somewhere else, you know, to really take on that, because I don't consider myself a pro. I'm just a guy who got the job, you know, and but I try my hardest. You know, there's nothing more real than that last hour, because I have to try to eat it, you know, like, you know, I just get, you know, I loosen up, you know, and then it's like you hear the bell and that's it. And then we film straight through. Like if it's a half an hour, like in the beginning, there were like some hour challenges. I was like, guys, like nothing happens. If I'm not done in 30 minutes, we were in Billings, Montana, and it was like a steak. It was like potatoes. It was like salad. It was like 300 pounds of food. I don't even know how big it was. And like after 30 minutes, I was like, I'm not finishing this, you know? And like people are cheering still, and the lights are on me. You know, there's like 3 cameras, there's lights, people are yelling. It's like, I was like hallucinating a little bit, because it was like salty and crazy. And I was like, I just want a sniper rifle to take me. I just want an arrow to come in and just distract everybody. You know? All right, get out of here. Just put me out of my misery. Like, there's no way I'm finishing this, you know? But so then we cut it off. It's like 30 minutes. You only get 30, because your body stops. I don't care who you are. Like eventually, with at least this body, your mind catches up with your body. It's like, you're done, you know? But,
I did wonder how many you're into, if like 3 minutes in, like, you know, there's no way. Like, is it, or do you
know what? It's very surprising. Like, cause like I'll look at something, and like I know over the years, it's true, it's been years, that like carbs, I'm done. Like if it's like 9 pancakes, it's not gonna happen. Just like my torso is only so big. The people that really, there's a few people that always win. It's typically, a lot of times, it's these tall, leaner dudes. And there's a lot of women that win too, and they're smaller. I don't get that. I don't understand how it works, but the tall, leaner dudes, in my case, as far as guys are concerned, they just can put it down. Like my brother can eat for days. He's like 6'2". He just eat. I'm like, where does it go? You know, I only have so much room. And even if I trained, you know, and I'm prepared, you know, there's been a handful of times, let's say half a dozen times, if not more, where I wasn't going to finish it. And then the crowd steps in and they start, and I'm getting chills to say this because it's a real thing. The crowd gets so into it, and they somehow it just like, I mean, I turn it to somebody else, and then I finish the thing, you know, whether it be hot or huge. And that's what it is. And that surprised me. Like, I'm like, oh my, how did this even happen? Like I was not finishing it. And then maybe like I burp, and then it's like, oh, okay. And then, like finish the thing. I don't know, you know, it's such, cause I really have to go somewhere else to do it. Cause it is like a gladiator sport, you know.
You're like food, LeBron James. I mean, of food eating.
I mean, these guys are mega athletes. Like I'm just, you know, a silly looking guy that eats crazy food. You know? Not to take away from my profession, but
no.
Yeah, the crowd. I honestly, man, it was such a powerful moment when you like. It's like Rudy, you know. It's like, yeah, you can do it, you know, and he did it, you know. Very, very surprising how that happened, and that's the energy in the room, because it's a real thing. They're really cheering, and that's got me over more than I would ever imagine it would have.
What's the hardest food challenge? I know you've had some that you've won and lost, and you've lost more than you've won a bunch, you've lost a few, like, but
yeah.
What was truly the hardest? Do you have a hardest moment? Is it one of the hot ones? I mean, the hot stuff, I don't even know how you get it. I mean, you must have tolerance for that. Like,
I have magical powers.
Yes.
So they're all hard. Every single one of them is difficult. Some of them have been maybe easier than other, depending on their weight or how hot they are. Because like as a result of eating hot food, I now eat more hot food than I ever would have.
Yeah.
And I respect it, though. You have to really respect it. I mean, I grow hot peppers on my balcony. I have like 14 different kinds of hot peppers, these tiny Brazilian.
So that's what I'm saying. You're like LeBron James. You're prepping at all times. You've got hot peppers. You're eating them while you're ready.
I'm ready. But, it's the hardest in the beginning. It was really hard because I didn't know what I was capable of, and I didn't really train.
Right.
So in the very beginning, the hardest ones were the first season. That was the hardest because like I didn't know what I was getting into. I was like wavering whether I'm going to do this or not. I'm on the phone with my friends or my girlfriend. I'm like, I don't know if I could do this, and the later it would be the hot stuff because we weren't really regulating it. And like chefs are putting in tincture, like pure capsaicin, which is just basically poison. It's just fire, like there's no taste to it. And I'm like, guys, and like, and it happened a few times where I got scorched, where it was just like it wasn't pleasant, just as a result, right? Eating is fine, and then it's like all of a sudden there's literal poison going through my veins.
Yeah.
And so we had to regulate that. No pure capsaicin. I need to know what's in it. If you guys want me to continue to do the show, like I might die.
Fair.
Like you might like I don't want to die. Like I would love to do this and like, but like we need to regulate a little bit more. So then we dialed it back and like I know what's in it, I know what's not in it, and like the pure capsaicin is off the shelf. As a result, because there's nothing good about that. Like if you threw that in someone's face, it would burn their skin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So why would I be eating that stuff? The hot stuff, and then the super loaded carb stuff is like it's near impossible.
Yeah. What about favorite? Like, is there any? Maybe a combination of maybe the before the challenge and the challenge, like favorite city, favorite all in one. I know they're all your babies, and you don't, that's what I say about my podcast guests. Like I never name a favorite.
I would never be able to name a favorite, but I think as far as a food city and being in the restaurant business for my whole life and hadn't never, I had never traveled there prior to. Oh, and that's not true. I was there before, but New Orleans is such a special place. It's just a special food place, like because it not only there's a lot of history there and there's a lot of food that comes together culturally.
Yep.
And then there's music and then the bar scene and then just the good times and there's a lot there than just food. And I just love that city so much. I always joke that like I want to go to Mardi Gras and Jazz Fest this year in New Orleans. We wrapped in Florida. I went right to Mardi Gras, which I probably should have gave myself a couple of days off. And then months later, I went to Jazz Fest. But New Orleans is one of those places where I always joke that I'm in love with. New York City has my heart, but I'm in love with New Orleans. But like I think we were talking off camera before. Like what was surprised me most, and what I love about all the places that we traveled is that even in the smaller markets, so smaller cities are like, where the camera guy's like, oh, I've been here before. It's like, all right, like I haven't, like, let me explore this place. Not just the camera guy, but that like a lot of folks that are from, let's say a small town, say it's like where you're in Greenville, right? So a lot of folks left and went and became a chef, or they learned how to distill spirits, or became a brewer, and then they come back and then they open up their own place. And there was a lot of that around the country. I was like, whoa, this place is amazing. It's a smaller city, but like they have everything that I love. They have the music scene, they have the beer scene, they have the distillery, they have the restaurants, and like, it's like, wow, I could live here. And I quite honestly, I've been. It's like. I mean, New Jersey has everything, right? I mean, I'm on the coast. I have New York City very close, but like I've fallen in love over and over and over again, like a child with all these places that I've been to. And it's really hard to choose. That's why I'm thankful that my job doesn't make me choose. I'm able to explore and then share that with everybody else. And I hope it, whatever's reflecting off of me is being soaked in, because it's true. I really, my reaction to things is genuine,
Yeah.
And that's what, but yeah, I would say if I had to choose one, New Orleans is one of my favorite places on the planet because I just fell in love with the people there. I've met a lot of people there. I've been back a bunch, and it's quick flight.
What's the I mean, how recognized are you now? Like, I mean, your face is very recognizable. You've got the expressions and everything else. The show's pretty. It's you're 7 seasons in, coming into 7 seasons, or what? Like, how is that good, bad? Like, you enjoy it?
So I was in a parking lot of a convenience store with a buddy of mine, and across the street in another parking lot, some dude yelled out, "Kitty litter! Yeah! I love that commercial." I was in an Arm & Hammer kitty litter commercial. That was like 4 seasons into Man vs. Food. And I had a hat on, sunglasses. Like, how did this dude even see me? Like, how on earth did he even see me in this, and he loved the kitty litter commercial. So for me, I think it's the greatest part of my gig. And like, truthfully, like the fact that someone wants to come up and spend time and talk and ask about the show, like, it's part of the gig, and like, I'm usually the one, they're the ones that usually walk away first. Like, yeah, we got to go. And like, I'm still talking, like, I'm excited to talk to them. They're like, all right, like, you're nice enough, but we got to catch a flight or, man, like I said, the fact that someone would take a moment out of their day and like say a nice thing, like there's not enough of that in the world, or maybe there is. And I appreciate that so much. And I would never not want someone to come up, because I totally fan out too, like,
yeah.
I remember I was in a restaurant in LA and Bill Murray is like 2 tables next to us. And my buddy and I were just talking louder so he could hear us, and like, he's just eating his food. He could care less, but like, I appreciate it. And I think honestly, like I got the show later in life, and I was working as a production assistant. I was acting, I was bartending, working restaurants, and I had to choose acting or working production. I chose acting, and it just, I just learned by doing, and it gave me the wherewithal, or at least the knowledge to know it's like, this is very fleeting, like, take it for what it is, enjoy every moment, and it's really as simple as that. And I do my best. And like, sometimes I'm walking through, I'm like, I just shot 2 episodes, and I'm on my way home, and I'm like, just rugged, and somebody comes up to you and wants to talk, and like, in that moment, they get me out of my head. And they're like, hey, I'm like, hey. And it's a lot of times it's TSA folks are like, they love the chat. I'm like, I'm there, put my shoes back on, BSing with them. And I love it, man. Like I encourage people, don't go stalking anybody, but but say hi, at least say hi,
What, how does it make you feel about, like, we talked about it a little pre-episode, but like, the Casey Webb personal brand, like, the show's put you on the map. It's opened up opportunities. You admitted it, everything's fleeting in life, but
yeah,
like, I don't know, it's done a lot for your personal brand, I imagine,
Yeah, and that kind of leans into, being recognized, because I haven't, like, the brand itself, Man vs. Food, is just, I just happen to host a show. So there's no ownership over that.
Sure.
And I'm totally okay with that. I think what I've been doing just naturally and organically is just kind of letting the dust settle a little bit and figuring out what that is, what Casey Webb's brand is. And, I was lucky enough to have some endorsement stuff right out of the gate. I spent 2 years with Twisted Tea traveling around to NASCAR races as their, the grilling pro. And that was unbelievable. Right. And then prior to that, I had my first national commercial, which was a Mobil 1 commercial, which, like, we had a NASCAR driver, Kevin Harvick was in the commercial with me. And then, so like, I became the NASCAR guy, like, and like, a lot of people watch the food show and like Man vs. Food. So it was like, I was kind of thrown into this universe, and it was like, wow, this is so incredible. And I think now, letting the dust settle, a year or so has passed by, and it's like, where do I want to be with Casey Webb and that brand? And, I'm humbled by the whole thing, so I haven't rushed it at all.
Yep.
So I'm really you would think that I would be way ahead of it, but I'm not. It's really at the kind of the beginning of developing what that is, because now I've had some time off, like we all had some time off.
Yep.
and I'm thinking a lot more clear, and like, the show it has a shelf life, it's only going to go so far. For myself personally too, one day I'm going to decide whether I can do it or not anymore, or if I want to. And I don't want to disappoint anybody, but like the reality is, and like, what's the next thing? And so, I mean, as long as like I'm helping people keep people's lights on and bringing smile to people's faces, I'll do forever, but as far as my personal brand, I think there's that's TBD, because we're working on some stuff, which is really exciting. And I mean, I'd love to come back and talk to you about it later on, when that stuff has come to fruition. But and I know we mentioned talking to you offline about that stuff, because you're the man. Or I guess I am.
I'll make you more the man.
Woo! Love that. But yeah, I'm excited about the future of things, because I don't like sitting still, and I like working. So you hear that, everybody?
I got a request. I'm totally putting you on the no, not a song.
No, please do.
If you were doing a like one of your, and if you can totally bow out of this. I don't like to put my guests on the spot, but
you are.
but I am. We'll edit it out if we hate it. But if what would be the promo for the like one of your promos, like going off or onto the air, like coming up, whatever? What would be your promo for like the Radcast? Like if like I need like a man versus food type promo for the Radcast.
Wow.
What are your catchphrases? Like what it's like you've got catchphrases on the show, right?
Do I?
Yeah, come on. Like,
catchphrases.
Like what's the woo? Like the, like that stuff. Like,
I throw kicks a lot. I throw kicks in the air. I love doing that.
Yes.
I mean, definitely scream. I definitely scream.
Yeah.
Woo-hoo!
Yeah.
I do a lot of woo-hooing.
I know.
We could develop this if you
want. I think we got to develop it. That's gonna be our homework assignment.
I think it's a great idea. I mean, I'd love to have because this is obviously not live, right? So
no,
we'll button this up.
Yeah,
we'll put a button on it.
Putting a button on it. I can see that being the intro outro, like Casey did. In a little bit of the coming up, whatever it is. But I don't know. We'll think about that one.
Yeah, no, I think there's plenty of room for and I'd be more than happy to do this offline. And where I could actually think about it. And
I know.
Practice, rehearse it.
I know.
You know what I mean?
That one came to me in hearing you talk, but
because then it's gonna be corny. It's gonna be like getting rad with Ryan on the Radcast. Like a radio voice guy. It's like that sounds.
We can think through it. You think through it. We'll banter around on.
I'll put it down.
Yeah.
You want an opener for the show or a closer?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm open to either one. Whichever one feels more natural.
Opener and closer.
I don't know. We do a little segment called Rad or Fad. I'm going to give you some keyword topics, and in Casey's world and his future crystal ball. Yeah.
So I just say rad or fad.
You can add. I appreciate you asking, Casey, because most people don't ask, but then it's all, and there's no wrong way. And even when I say, you can add, if I say you can add some stuff, it becomes one word and then 4 paragraphs.
That's what I have to add. Gonna do. Because you have a disclaimer. Like,
yes, you're allowed to. Disclaimers are allowed because everyone else has one. So
right, yeah, it's not as black and white sometimes.
Yeah, it's not. It's not.
All
right, rad or fad? The metaverse.
As long as it's not used to weaponize humans, I think it's can be pretty rad.
Could we see a man versus food in the metaverse?
Man versus metaverse? Probably.
Hey,
man versus
metaverse. That might be our thing.
I think it's a fun place to play in, but it just needs to be regulated, controlled, especially for kids.
I can see a big role.
Because I was a kid who spent time outside. Spent a lot of time outside as a kid. And I still do as an adult. I think there's only so much time you should be on the metaverse. You should be out in reality. Reality is key. Reality is key.
Ding, 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 my friend. As the father of 4 boys, could agree more.
Play sports or whatever.
TikTok, rad or fad?
I love the fact that like a kid, and it goes back to kids or anyone for that matter, has the opportunity to shine. It's like if there's a lot of sing-song dancing going on, and good for you. Like, go have fun. and enjoy that. I think it's pretty rad because as a kid we didn't have that opportunity, and so little stars are popping up everywhere, and I think it's a great avenue for performers or for people that want to share, maybe too much sometimes, but I think it's when it's used for the powers of good, I think it's rad.
I see us taking Casey Webb to the TikTok is what I see. It's not just teenagers and dances anymore. It's everybody.
Oh, totally. It's everybody.
Yes. I'm gonna be your TikTok agent. Top Gun Maverick. Rad or fad?
What I've seen, I think it could be the greatest sequel of all time. The music, I mean, Tom Cruise, come on. And Jennifer Connelly, America's Sweetheart.
Yep.
Just saying.
So rad.
Maverick is rad.
Yes. Hey, man, where can everybody keep up with everything Casey Webb?
So how do you keep up with everything Casey
Yeah.
Webb? Casey Webb is on Instagram as I am Husky for Life, because that's what I am. I always will be. No matter how trim I get, I will always be Husky for Life. Casey's Call on Twitter, Facebook, the same thing, Casey Webb. But yeah, TBD there is a podcast on its way called Husky for Life. Oh, so nice. That's coming to life as we speak. So look for that on your favorite podcast platform. Or if you come to New Jersey, this is where I live. So you can find me here, roaming around the state of New Jersey, eating and having a good time.
What's the schedule for the episodes and everything for coming out? Like, you got stuff recorded that hasn't aired yet, correct?
Exactly. So we filmed 2 seasons in a row. We did our 5th and 6th season. The 5th season aired, which was great, and then the 6th season is on hold just because they didn't want to release them back to back. So it's probably going to be late summer. And then as far as the 7th season, we don't know. That's going to be determined. A big merger happened between, if you follow that stuff, between Discovery Network and Warner.
Mm-hmm.
This is for the adults in the room, I guess, that care about this stuff. So things might be a little delayed with new programming, but we're pretty confident we're going to get a 7th season. So look for that in probably the late fall.
Great. And I love it, man. Hey, we got to keep it going. I got to have something to watch, I'm running out of shows.
I agree. Right, because if you only have so many shows you watch, I'm one of them, we have to keep it going.
Yes, we do.
So
we'll have to figure out how to keep it going, and if it doesn't keep going,
I agree, because there's a lot more Casey to go around, especially after filming 90 episodes.
Maybe where you don't have to challenge every food.
That's what we're looking at. We're looking at the what's in addition to eating copious amounts of huge and hot food.
Yep. Casey, man, it's been great getting to know you better. I want to stay connected. I think you're a great guy, and I think my kids love you, and we love the show, and I couldn't be happier to have had you on the show. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much for reaching out, and I look forward to growing this relationship, man.
Yeah.
It means a lot because it's not very often I get to talk about the things that I do outside of the show. So it's with just the show, So yeah, it's good. I think it's healthy. I think it's good to talk it out.
Yeah, brother. Hey,
appreciate
guys.
You.
Yeah, man. We really appreciate Casey Webb coming on. You know where to find him. Man versus Food. I'm Husky for Life. Go follow him. We're at the radcast.com. Search for Man versus Food. You'll find all the highlight clips from today. You know where to find me. I'm verified and blowing up on TikTok. Ryan Alford. We'll see you next time. The Radcast.